Next session we have is about deliberative technologies, how deliberative technologies can help to build dialogue. Just to be on the same page, what do we mean by deliberative technologies? These are technologies and platforms that are designed to define consensus, dialogue, to see where we overlap, on the one hand, and also to gather large scale of public opinion, but not only see it as public opinion, but also see where we have a common ground and where we have some different views and what is uniting us. And these tools, they address limitations of regular poll tools or survey tools, because it allows to share your vision, views, by the same time on the same platform, to see what other people think, and in a real time, as I already said, to find a common ground. And we have today three very interesting presentations from three speakers. We have Christine Odera from Kenya. Christine is co-chair of Youth Peace and Security Council in Kenya. We have Mridul Upadhyay, who is the youth peace and security activist and one of experienced individuals in the area of using digital technologies and also promoting youth peace and security agenda from South Asia, from India, but mainly, but also covering South Asia in general. We have Victoria Stanski from Common Good AI company, technology company, which is based in Australia. So dear speakers, you have around 9-10 minutes for your presentations. So now I'm very happy to give floor to Christine. Christine, please.
Thank you, Samara. Could you please present? There we go. Thank you. So members, I will be sharing experience from some of the tools that we have used here in Kenya through the Kenyan Coalition on Youth Peace and Security, which is a different coalition from what Caleb just spoke about from the session that just ended. Next slide, please. So why did we choose to harness a deliberative take for the Youth Peace and Security National Action Plan? We don't have a national action plan as of yet, but we are working towards finalizing one. We have a draft ready, and we're hoping that government will then help us finalize it, because policies are government documents, and so as civil society actors, we can only start the conversation and then escalate it to the government for the endorsement. And so why did it matter for us to really use technology and some of these AI tools? One is because national action plans are effective when they are inclusive, transparent, and responsive to youth and other generations that are affected. And we realized that sometimes it's very hard to have all these people in one group. And so then how do we use the different technologies that we have to ensure that we have inclusive conversations that transcend one generation altogether? Another thing is deliberative technologies and AI make large-scale inclusive participation possible, even across diverse and hard-to-reach groups. Granted, we still have lack of access in some areas here in Africa and in Kenya largely, but technology has helped us to ideally meet a larger percentage of people who cannot always be in one room. And beyond consultations, these tools really support every stage of a national action plan by strengthening dialogue, building consensus, and tracking progress in real time. Some of the technologies that we used were able to give us a complete different outlook from what the conversation was in the room to what other young Kenyans were feeling outside the room. And that really helped us come up with a consensus that was not informed by the few majority that were in the room, but a larger majority of Kenyans who are very tech savvy and were lucky to engage online. And lastly, it was very important for us to explore practical ways to apply these innovations to make a national action plan more participatory, adaptive, and impactful. Because then you don't want to come up with a policy or a national strategy that people don't see themselves in. And so we're really hoping that in real time, we're able to see the changes that are happening, to include the conversations that have been left out, because sometimes as youth we also tend to leave out the older generations, but then you realize over time that there are those generations that are the policymakers and the decision makers, especially in our context. Next slide, please. So from the Kenyan context, we used three tools. We used Polis, Ramesh, and Koala Pay. And so when we look at Polis is free and accessible. Anyone can access it freely online. It is quick and easy and allows anonymous voting. So you can have different people from different diverse groups really voting and sharing their opinions, and you never really know where they are or who they are. But then, depending on how you design your poll, you're able to get very representative data on the same. The other thing was crowdsourcing opinions. So you're able to ideally look at different crowds and what their opinions on one particular issue is, and able to galvanize that information instantly. Comments are displayed semi-randomly, and so it is not you waiting after you've collected the polls to then collate that information. All of it is instantly and semi-randomly, so there's really no room for you to keep the programmer's biases in some of this conversation. And then visualizing opinion groups and data in real time. You're able to see who is voting in your polls, why they are voting, and what the different opinions are in real time. And another key thing that we learned was identifying consensus across group as well as divisive topics. So you're able to see, and policy is really able to show you how the different groups are agreeing on a particular matter or where the divergent opinions are in real time. So then that made police really interesting for us when we were looking at the different opinions when it came to how best do we then have a national action plan on youth, peace, and security in Kenya. Another interesting tool that we used was Ramesh. And in this case, we're looking at how do we have the different opinions from the different members, from the different stakeholders that are really pertinent in this particular process. We realized that and we realized that through the anonymous participation plus basic demographics and other groups information, we're really able to target different multi-stakeholders, and we're also able to see how best to engage and what their critical needs at that particular point was. The interesting bit about Ramesh is you're not limited to doing the conventional surveys where you just send your text. You could actually use your voice, and the technology is able to convert what you're saying into word and ensure that all your opinions are also taken care of. One of the critical things that we faced in Kenya was different groups do not necessarily understand English. And so by using English alone, you limit a larger majority of people who might not have a lot of English understanding. And so how do we then collect all this information from different people in ensuring that it is all inclusive? Ramesh, though, is paid, and so you'd have to work with a partner that has a paid platform for you to access it. The other poll, next slide. The other tool that we used was Koala Pay. And in Koala Pay, we were able to incentivize the participants. And because they're in different jurisdictions, we're able to use M-Pesa and really limit some of the administrative barriers that you get when you have to administer payments from one country to another. It's real time. The traceability and reporting is also real time. Automated compliance was one of the key things that we realized, because then you're able to verify the participants who actually filled the surveys and the polls versus the participants who did not fill but want to get the payment. So a lot of these things were really ensuring that privacy within the data infrastructure was taken care of. Next slide. And so some of the learnings, next slide, please. Some of the learnings that we had were when using this tool is like, we need to ensure that the deliberation leads to concrete outcomes, and ensuring that you get political buy-in at an earlier age. And as Caleb was saying from the previous session, we need to ensure that we work with the regulators, and sometimes it takes a political angle, but then ensuring that you get these political buy-ins is very, very critical. Trust matters more than any of the tools, and so you need to make sure that it has a participatory experience within the tools. Members who are engaging with these tools need to understand why they're using that tool in the first place. Accessibility improves with mobile friendly, multilingual, and low bandwidth tools. So you need to ensure that you use both text and audio, and especially to also reach to the people living with disabilities. Co-designing the question is very important. You need the human interface to interact with these technologies so that a lot of the outputs are informed by the inputs and some of the outcomes that are anticipated. Also, the need for combining in-person engagement is very critical with digital outreach, when digital outreach is more effective. Deliberation can build people's sense of urgency and belonging. And lastly, the human oversight cannot be overemphasized when it comes to the analysis of some of these engagements. Next slide, please. So when it comes to some of the risks and the ethics associated with such, next slide, please. We need to ensure that safety and security is really, really pertinent when engaging with some of these tools. Please ensure you read the privacy policies and terms of service for the particular tools, because the human error accounts for most data breaches. Anonymity, comments cannot be directly attributed to specific participants, but this does not eliminate all the risks. When it comes to the ethics, biases may skew conclusions. And so knowing the difference between the AI and what other tools are presenting, the algorithmic transparency and the possible hijacking is very critical when you're designing some of these tools and everything. And as I conclude, trust comes from people and processes and not the technology. So in all the use of this technology, we need to ensure that one, people and the process is taken care of, because you don't want to use the technology at the expense of people. Technology is not replacing people, it is enhancing what people are already doing. I thank you. Back to you, Samara.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Christine. So we'll have a small Q&A in the end of the session. Now I give floor to Mridul. Mridul, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Samara, and thank you, Christine, for already giving so much perspective on the work that you were doing. I guess what I will be sharing is along the same lines, just sharing a different perspective, but I think our findings might be similar. So if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so why Delip Tech? Okay, yes. We wanted to also listen at scale. We need a tool when we say like the world is having 1.8 billion young people or 2.4 billion young people, then we want to listen to them and to engage thousands of people simultaneously cross countries at the regional level, national level, and also removing the resource barrier is where Deliptech can actually help. So that was our first need, and I guess like when we think of Deliptech, this is first thing that comes to our mind. But when we want to listen to them, the second issue is can we create something which is more interactive for young people to respond to? So, if you are asking traditional surveys of poll, there are always some limitations. People have already used Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, and all of these different kind of tools. And the platform, they don't find the platform very interactive. So, what can be done for that? Delibtech provide, as Christine was mentioning, option of not only writing your own responses, but at the same time voting on others' ideas as well. And when you are writing, you can also choose to write anonymously, so that creates a more safe space for you when we are talking about contexts like governance and peace building. That safety is required at times. And third is when you are having such a large data, then you need certain tools which are already inbuilt to synthesize all this large scale data collection that you are having. And you want that not only to provide this winners take it all approach, so not just the consensus driven policy signals, but at the same time, where are the fault lines? What are the divergent points? Because let's say if we are talking about peace building or governance, again, people have different needs. We don't want only the majority perspectives to get highlight. You also want where people may be having different kind of or facing different kind of context in peace building and governance issues. You want their voices also to be reflected in certain manner. So you want to see the fourth line as well. And the third thing is in the governance and in general decision making, whenever you want to include young people in these ways, the third thing is always connected to, like, if let's say 1000 people are saying this should happen in policy, and they are giving, let's say, 200 different points that okay, these are the things that can happen. So always the issue is the policymakers or someone then need to sit with those 200 and filter out which 2 or 3 points or 5 points they want to take up. Yeah, so that is always an issue. How we make it a point when this kind of prioritization is already coming from the analysis itself. So instead of, let's say, going through these individual recommendations and we picking or someone else picking, this Delib already gives you an idea of, let's say, 90% people or 95% people are kind of agreeing to these particular recommendations. So then that becomes a majority driven, consensus driven policy signal that can be taken up by the policymakers very quickly without like they kind of intervening and picking it up. So if we go next, I want to share how this another tool. So Christine already mentioned two tools. This is third tool. We actually used previously Polis, which is like poll.is. So we used that, and then there were some good things from Ramesh as well. And then there are certain limitations of Polis. All of these tools are still in development. More research is needed, more support is needed to develop these further. So we ended up creating a different tool, which is called Ecota, and then this tool has this kind of interface. So as you can see at the top, there are four different stages: build, share, moderate, and result. So result is where you can see everything. Moderate, I will come to it. Share is just sharing. Build is, this is the build platform. This is how you see when you're trying to set this Ecota for your users. On right hand side, you can see the preview. Any changes you are making, the preview will let you know how it will be reflected for the end user or the participant. But you can create a welcome page, about page. You can ask open-ended questions, demographic questions like how old are you, or what do you think about this particular issue. So those kind of questions can be added here. But then there is a main space question. The space question is main question, which could be, let's say, how could public spaces such as park, public squares be made safer for children? This is one question you are asking. And then now you are enabling, if you see at the right hand side, you see this main question, then you can, there are certain opinions, you can agree, disagree, or pass. Like if you like, yeah, this is a really good statement, you can agree to it. If you like, no, this is not a really good idea, then you can disagree to it. And if you have any other opinion, you can also share your opinion. Now, this opinion will be further moderated. So that's where the moderator's role is there. Like all the opinion, let's say 10,000 people are engaging in it. And if 10,000 different opinions are coming, then there might be some duplication, there might be something which is not directly related to the question. So when there is all of that chance, then the role of moderation is also needed. So what Christine was mentioning, that human intervention is also needed. That creates another level of safety and security in this space. So this is how the design look like. If you go to the next one, so next slide, and if we can play the video, is it not playing?
It
Okay,
says request access. It seems there's no access to this video, Mridul, there. Access denied.
sure. Access denied. Okay, no worries. Maybe, yeah, I did not check it. So yeah, the video I can share later, but oh, okay, yeah, I'm getting it. Just a second. I shared it. Trini, can you please check again? Go back. It's a very short video. Just wanted to give a demo. Oh, still not? Maybe someone else is sharing. Oh, Aisha. Um, Sorry, just refresh once more. Trini also exists.
Try to press the link one more time, yeah?
Yeah, just
Yeah, it seems now it's going to open.
yes, it's open. It's a very short one. I do not know this issue will come out. But it is coming.
Mridul, then you'll have
Maybe we can
2-3
move
minutes
forward
max.
here. Yes. Yeah, it's a very short one. If we just play it. So this is how it look like. Like the cursor is already moving. People can agree to it, disagree to it. They can write an opinion. So this is more interactive, no? And this is a different question. It's a test question. What can your organization do better to support your well-being? Yeah. Okay. If you go back to the slide. Yes. So, and next, if you click once more, so we had run over 15 national, sub-regional, regional, and global youth conversations on Ekota, reaching out about 10,000 people. And these conversations were done in context of climate policy making, indigenous issues, climate justice, green jobs. All of these were actually linked with something or other related to policy making. So 9 of these national consultations were linked with local conference of youth, leading to the global conference of youth. So these ideas actually contributed to the youth statement, which was submitted at COP 30. If you click more, once more. Yeah, and then the remaining were contributing to the NDC processes of the country and also informed other climate policy frameworks. So this is how like the policies were actually taken. These were not just taken without identifying the right avenues where some of these voices can go. And then we go to the next slide and click all. So yes, I guess the suggestion has been that currently we have been talking about digital public infrastructure, but idea is that there is a need to create deliberative public infrastructure. We want public to engage with it, but engage in a deliberative manner. But at the same time, there are certain challenges, and I want to talk about 5 different challenges. One challenge is very common: digital divide. Digital tech cannot reach to all the people due to their digital access and language barriers. So that is one thing. But other things are very important, which is that all of these, like you might collect all of these policy signals, but still they might not reach the decision makers or might not translate into tangible actions. Let's say Christine is collecting so many perspectives, but will all the perspective be already taken into the national action plan or not? It depends on how sincere Christine is to or how committed Christine is to those processes. So we need to identify those pre-negotiated avenues. And that is very much needed in these processes. We cannot only connect and not do anything about it. That is related to trust as well, because some people already feel, okay, why should I respond to a survey when no one is already going to do something about? But then trust is also something else in context of peace building and governance, that there are threats of state co-option through tokenistic action, or they will manage somehow the narrative or algorithm, or they will try to adopt this more as a public consent appearance rather than actually kind of doing something about it. Then there are actual adaptation barriers as well. Whatever we are able to share is because we have been using it a couple of times. All of this learning, like it takes a little bit of learning cycle. It looks easy, but still it requires an hidden trial. You learn that if you are asking right kind of question, then you will get right kind of insights. So people sometimes become a little bit hesitant to really take it up because of that complexity. And last is functional barriers. Then like why Christine thought of having a Polis and then Remes, because Remes provided something else. Polis also provided something else. Ecota provides something else. So there are these functionalities, and sometimes these functionalities are conflicting with each other. So for example, if we want to have anonymity, yes, we can have the anonymity. No one will share where they are coming from. But at the same time, there is a risk of that same person might be submitting, let's say, 10 responses or 100 responses. How we will ensure that? There are always these dilemmas. So these are the things that we are still trying to work, and the Delibtech sector itself is trying to work on. But yeah, this has been our experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mridul. So for the next speaker presentation, Victoria, please, the floor is yours. You have, let me check. Yeah, we have only, so you have 8 minutes, and if you can try to do it on time, thanks.
Thank you so much. And a big thank you to the previous panelists for the really excellent presentations. And just, I think the more that we use this technology, the more we learn and the more we can share and just make it better and go further with the technology. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Victoria Stanski. I'm the Managing Director of Common Good AI. It's a nonprofit working globally, including Australia, which I'm going to share a case with you today, though we are based in the US as well as Greece. And our mission is to focus on community problem solving using digital tools. In particular, we collaborate with civil society organizations because we see that civil society and the work that they're doing, they are the first to need these tools, but oftentimes the last to get it. And so we want to make sure that this forums like this, learning like this, are being shared and used and applied globally to enable social action. At Common Good AI, we use a range of tools: Polis, Talk to the City, Go Vocal. We're not set on one in particular, but I will be sharing with you today actually a research study that we are currently running right now in Australia, and it's one of a couple projects that we're working on right now. Next slide, please. So we are collaborating with the Western Sydney University's Young and Resilient Research Centre. They are known for their research with young people, particularly around digital harms and digital safety. And they secured the funding and launched and designed this research project and wanted to use a new kind of technology, like a new way to engage young people, to understand their perceptions and ideas around AI, to identify their what are the risks as well as the benefits of AI. They wanted to understand what youth voices thought would keep them safe, in order to inform the future development of AI principles and policies that both industry as well as policymakers could adopt. So instead of, it really wanted to get the voice of young people. And I guess in Australia, this is a very particularly an interesting context because in December 2025, there was a national ban of social media because in Australia, because it was seen as causing harm to young people. So there's a strong awareness already and attention to the fact that there are digital harms in social media, that there was a national policy that was passed. As part of this project, the Western Sydney University already engaged the Australian e-Safety Commissioner. This is the first government regulatory agency that's independent from the government that's observing and regulating online safety. So early in this project, they engaged this governmental office so that the results and the inputs and the findings from this study could help inform Australian public policy. In addition, this project, they already engaged Anthropic, which we know is one of the large companies that's developing LLMs, but also with the intention of being able to share young people's voices based on the principles that they and the learnings from the study to inform Anthropic's policy and in industry practice. So we saw this as a really ripe opportunity to be able to use deliberative tech as part of an academic study that would help lift up the voices of young people in Australia, ages 14 to 24, to help inform both policy within the industry as well as within the government. Next slide, please. So a quick overview on the process. There are many other steps besides this, but this gives you a sense of, and I'm sure my two colleagues would agree, that there's a very intentional design that needs to be done in order to make these projects successful. Agree with that. The trust is not about the technology, it's about building trust and really making sure that participants are able to easily use the technology. But we first started with a set of questions. What do we want to know from young people across 3 engagements? We wanted to make sure that we were not making the questions too generic, that we wouldn't get kind of more insights. We also worked with an Australian recruitment agency who has access to a large group of young people across the country. It was really important as part of the study that we were not just reaching people within urban areas, but also in rural areas. And because the global reach of AI and such is critically important to understand rural areas as well. So this was several months of kind of iterating and developing. We also tested and adapted. We engaged a youth council to review the questions in the tool in order to really make sure that they made sense to those young people and changed a little bit based on their feedback. We also built in acknowledging that we are engaging 14 to 24-year-olds. There's very different development levels. We wanted to make sure that there was a moderation system built into the platform. So if there was anything of sexual nature or whatnot, because we were asking fairly provocative questions around harms, that it wouldn't necessarily have a negative impact on the younger population, because, and I'll just explain the tool on the next slide, but in short, we wanted to make sure that there was no harm caused by this study to young people. And lastly, as part of the tool, we wanted to make sure we were collecting some very basic demographic information to help segment the data analysis, to understanding what 14-year-olds are saying versus 24-year-olds, what boys versus girls, and again, the urban versus the rural. And the last part is we launched 3 sequential engagements over 2 months. We're still in the process of collecting data. And we even had to extend the deadline a couple times in order to make sure we had sufficient participation. But in short, we've been able to engage over 500 young people as part of this study to help inform AI policy in Australia. Next slide, please. The tool that we used is called CrowdSmart. It is a private company, but we have a licensing agreement with them. Because this is such a short presentation, I won't go in huge depth with it, but in short, the interaction, the user flow is you're asking users to respond to a question, and on the next page, they're able to see other people's answers to that question, and they're ranking the responses by moving them into another box. And at the end, and this is the screenshot you'll see, at the end, it shows a summary of where there's greatest alignment across the group. So you can see that we had over 500 participants in this engagement. And down below, you'll see like the summarization of the key points of alignment across this group. And if you click on each one of these, you can then see a breakdown of very specific citations, inputs that individuals shared. So it really helps with prioritization and alignment across a large group. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to share a couple tactical lessons from our experience here. we recognize that you really need to make sure that you're not asking people to do too much all at once. Otherwise, they won't be able to take that first step. You really need to make sure that you're segmenting so that it's not overwhelming. We also learned that the importance of the user flow, you really need to kind of direct people where you want to go. If you kind of give them options to go elsewhere, they'll go elsewhere and it'll diverge their attention from the actual engagement. So really making sure it's staying focused. The third point is it really remains a challenge to get people to participate. In this case, it was a paid study, but it is with deliberative tech, you want people to come back in, as we saw with the previous cases, to like, dislike, or to pass. But in this case, we wanted them to rank multiple times. It's very hard to get people to come back in because they're so used to surveys. So this is something that I think as a community, we need to keep thinking about. How do we foster that kind of engagement? And lastly, this project was really targeted at young people. So we really needed to make sure that there were safeguards in place, that there wasn't going to be any harm for those who participated. Last slide, please. And so some key takeaways of why we think deliberative tech is important is we see that there's huge value in more engagement than extraction of information. And unsolicited, we received feedback from participants saying that they really like the platform. They also like the nature of the study. But in short, we will try to be collecting some information to understand their engagement with the tool. But overall, we received positive feedback that they liked the interacting and reacting to other people's ideas. It felt meaningful to them. It felt more engaging. Also, we see with this tool very quickly you can accelerate and see where there's areas of consensus as well as disagreement. And it's not just about one individual opinion, it's about the collective, which is really what the study was about. What does the collective youth voice want to design AI principles around? And lastly, because it's able to accelerate this kind of consensus, it really helps create a more actionable path forward, so that participants' inputs aren't just kind of loose ideas, but it really helps move forward the thinking in order to be able to inform policy, inform practice, et cetera. So stay tuned. We'll be writing up a case study on this project in the coming weeks, coming months. And we hope that the study itself will be contributing to the larger global discussion around reducing of digital harms and lifting up young people's voices in doing so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Victoria. So let me ask one question, but and answer each of speakers to answer how you view it. So, as you know, in all the presentations, one of the idea that is reflected is that deliberative technologies, they help us to see what are the areas of consensus, also what are the views of participants, but also not only majority, but smaller part of opinions. What are the fractured lines? So could you please reflect on this aspect? So how do you see this working in your case, and also what challenges do you have with this? Because on the one hand, the algorithm that help us to see areas where most of people, most of participants agreed or disagreed, also can kind of helps to balance, but at the same time there is still this risk of falling into the majority's view. If you can just within 1 minute, of course I know it, but I know it's very short, just to reflect on that, and we can just start from Victoria, then Mridul, and to Christine. Yeah, thank you very much.
I think this is a really important question. As much as we strive for consensus and kind of the common ground, we also need to be looking at other voices as well. And this is why I just want to kind of reiterate what other colleagues said about making sure that you are doing a deep human review of all the data. In another project that we ran in northern Lebanon, we used AI summarization and sense making as part of our project, but we needed to make sure that we were looking at what was not included in that summary, because there was really important critical data about access to water and other infrastructure needs that were very critical that weren't necessarily being captured by the summarization. In this project, the data collection is still happening and the data analysis is still pending. But I think it'll be very critical to make sure you have that human review. So we can only rely on machines to a certain extent. I would say we need to make sure we keep humans in the loop.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Mridul, please.
Yeah, I would just say that technology alone will not be able to build the trust that is needed. And that's where I guess we cannot just say that just because we are using deliberative tech, people are able to feel more safe to engage and their perspective will be included in the perspective and all of their diversity will be reflected in their recommendations or policy signals. That is where the intention is needed. It's always there. Tech is only a tool. The tool itself is not going to solve it. So right kind of intention, it can be done either through the people who are helping, let's say how Christine is helping the government to come up with a national action plan. So now it's Christine could play that role that she is not, let's say, kind of missing out on any fractured lines or any opinion which is only in minority. Same, it could be the government people themselves who are running it. Maybe there are some champions who are keeping a track of this. So yes, and I guess it's a good point. As a practitioners, we should also remind each other. There were times when Lena reminded this to me that it's not only always about the majority point of view or the consensus only. It looks like that we are getting the consensus and we always go to it, but that's not the case. We should always remind each other of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank Christine, please.
Thank you, Samara. I see a couple of questions on the chat, but I'll summarize it and say, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be able to give you more inputs because of time, we're not able to elaborate further. But what I'll say is, let's find a pragmatic middle ground and really try and use a hybrid for deployment of our work. Technology will not give us all the answers, and also going manual will still not give us all the answers. But with a middle ground where we're doing a hybrid of both spectrums, we're really able to harness what we already know and what is already known, but ensuring that there's that human element to it. The real constraint here and the bigger question is usually who maintains it and how do they maintain it? And that is a question and a challenge I'll put out to all the participants, because at the end of the day, you who is maintaining it really know what you want to achieve out of it and how you'd want to go around it. And that then helps you to even choose the tool that really goes to speak to the needs that you have and what the goals that you're trying to reach. I thank you.
Thank you very much. This was extremely interesting. In the end, I just want to say one phrase that the more we use, the more we learn. And I really realized how quickly it's evolving. You know, the limitations that were 2 years or 1 year ago addressed already now. And what I felt is that if you don't explore it now, then after for even a month or 2 months, it has also different features, different opportunities. So just acknowledging all the limitations, but still with this learning mindset. Of course, deliberative tech has those limitations that also some other conventional methods has. But you know, recognizing these limitations, to be open to learn, this is the mindset we also try to have in our work. Thank you very much, dear speakers, Victoria, Mridul, Christine. It was very useful. Now we have a break, 15 minutes break. Yes, please come back in 15 minutes. We have 2 more sessions. Thank you very much.